Good morning. My name is Susan Reardon. I call the meeting of Wednesday, January 6th to order. Today we have 2 items on our agenda, and I haven't received any requests for continuances or withdrawals or postponements, so we'll hear them in the order that they appear on the agenda. Under announcements and appeals, I announced that we received an appeal of approval of a modification at 941 Media Road. It was for 2 front setback modifications and an interior yard setback modification, and we haven't scheduled a planning commission date yet, so once that's scheduled, I'll announce that here. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on items not on today's agenda? No? Okay, seeing no one, I will go to the first item, which is 1417 San Miguel Avenue. If you'd like
Good
to
morning,
give
Ms.
the
Reardon. Danny Cotto, Senior Planner. I'm the case planner for this project. The project is at 1417 San Miguel Avenue. It's a request for an uncovered parking space in the front setback with a circular driveway. I would like to orient you to the site. In kind of the purplish color is the property outline. In green is the house here, and then a detached garage. And then in blue is the proposed circular driveway with the parking space here. Oh, there's another uncovered parking space in this location as well. Now, San Miguel it runs sideways along a hill, so this is kind of a downhill slope as this drops away here. And this property shares a driveway with properties to the south. And right now, the cars that come down the driveway and pull into the garage, which is below the level of the house, or in this uncovered parking space, which is kind of at the level of the house, but still, to get from here into the house, you kind of have to go back up the hill and back into the house, or down and around and upstairs into the house. There's no parking on the south side of the street of San Miguel. And I'll let the applicant explain more about why they want what they want, but basically they want an unloading space here that's at the same level as the house, as the main entrance. Sorry. Now, generally, staff does not support circular driveways for a couple of reasons. One, it usually eliminates parking on the street because it's an extra driveway. In this case, this doesn't happen because there's no parking on the south side. But also, basically for aesthetic reasons, parking in the setback is generally not allowed, even with modifications. We don't support these generally. So we are recommending denial of the particular request. Now, it should be noted, I would like to add actually that the Single-Family Design Board reviewed the project, and they did not find that there was an aesthetic issue with it because there's enough landscaping, I think, to screen the parking space and still have the required visibility triangles. So it's not really a safety concern. It's more an aesthetic and policy concern. So we are recommending denial, but we are sympathetic as staff to these applicants. So because the SFDB didn't really have a problem aesthetically, we also put in, for if you are inclined to approve it, we put in some approval findings too. And so we recommend denial, but we leave it to your discretion. That concludes my staff report.
And I want to just confirm with you, Danny, that this at one time was the garage, and it was converted with a permit, and a new one was built back here. So there was at one time a garage attached to the residence.
I'll let the applicants respond on that. Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Michael Gott, the owner. I've researched the permits. The home was built in 1955. In 1959, the original owner pulled a permit to convert that to a rec room. It never had access to the house, and it sits about 6.5 feet down because of the hill. And then he built the double-car garage down here. What's interesting also is the sidewalk. There's actually a sidewalk that leads to the street here. I purchased the home from the estate of the original owner, Shirley, who passed away in the house, but apparently they recognize this need too. It's unique. Even though there's conforming off-site parking, there's no access to the front door. So Shirley would park out on the street where there's no parking and unload and actually put in a sidewalk to the front door. And so the neighbors have actually told me that and would watch her. I've talked with all the neighbors and they support this. And so because of the uniqueness, and my wife has some permanent disabilities that are mentioned in the letter, and we'll also have a letter from her doctor if you would like to see it. But once we come down and park here, I have a picture here that shows the route from the garage door to this. This is the back kitchen door. So it comes out here, and it's about a 11, 12 feet elevation change and 60, 75 steps up.
18 to 19 steps.
18 to 19 steps. It's either that route or walk all the way up the driveway, and at the top of the driveway is a 14% grade. And you can see how steep it is as it goes down, and walk around to the front door. So not only is it an issue for unloading groceries, service people or anything have to come down here. And so I believe we're unique. We're the only home on San Miguel I'm aware of, and probably the only one on the Mesa, with this configuration as we walk around, that we have no, even though we have the conforming off-street parking, we have none of those spaces support access to the front door of the house.
Now, why can't this one be improved to be able to get access up through this way? There is a small grade difference, but it's not significant that you can provide some kind of access way here.
Actually, it's pretty significant here.
Do you have a picture of it? I went out to the site yesterday.
6 foot. It's over 6 foot below the grade of the house, so that it'd be still another.
Yeah, this driveway is flush with the rec room floor, so it's 6.5 feet down. So yeah, she would have to then get groceries and pack them.
But why can't you make improvements to this, either raise it some and have it out of the front setback so it's in the remaining front yard?
The grade won't allow it. This grade is down at this lower level, so that you can't backfill against the house.
Can you do a retaining wall?
Well, it would have to be something. Yeah, you'd have to be.
And we haven't looked at putting a massive retaining wall in there, and then we wouldn't be able to access it here. Right.
The point of the whole thing basically is that we don't want the parking space. We have enough parking spaces. When I submitted the plan originally, my name is Don Swan, by the way. I'm the designer of the project and an agent for Mr. Dugat. When we submitted the project, the intent was that for just unloading, because Jamie just needs that way to get into the house without having a problem of parking a car and walking up steps into the house. We have previously got a permit for a deck at the upper level, so that she doesn't have to go down to the lower patio area to be on the outside. So we've gone to the expense of doing that's going to be under construction very shortly, and so that she can be walking outside and being at the level of the house where she can be in. So we don't need the parking space. It's to unload. Mike will take the car and put it away. That's the idea of the whole situation. It's only for convenience, not because we need a parking space. Even though the ordinance if that is the ordinance, we still think that the situation of the uniqueness of the property, because of it not having serving the three properties altogether. It's the only house on the 3, 4, 5 blocks down that has a garage that is not at the front of the house. So therefore, the question was brought up that someone may want to put a circular drive in on the same block. And we said, well, that can't happen because all the other houses have their garages at the front, and they're so close to the surface that the driveways they could not allow it to happen. It's physically impossible. So that's the reason for this. So we are unique in a way that it'll be the only one on this side of the block. The other side of the block, there was one approved at 1444 San Miguel up the street that has a circular driveway. And parking is, you see parking in that driveway, in the circular driveway. So we are
And
not
it's been
doing
approved, or is it just provided? Did you
the driveway was
approve? Okay.
on 1444.
I drove by and saw the angle of the garage appeared to make it necessary to have another way to come out.
That's
The way
correct.
that
It does,
garage
but
was-
again, it allows a parking space at the top of that garage. That's the idea of the whole thing too. And also on around the corner at 222, there was a driveway, circular driveway that was approved in 92. It was for a circular driveway that there's no mention of a parking space in the front setback.
Right, yeah.
And what is parked in the front setback?
Well, that's what people do with their circular driveways. That's why nowadays we require the modification to allow it, because people
But
park there.
nowadays, it's like, I have several pictures in the file that show of residences that have circular driveways, and all their garages are at the front.
Right,
See?
yeah. So your request is to allow the parking in the front yard.
Well, that is not a request. It's the interpretation of staff that is a request.
Okay, great. Thanks. Do you have anything else regarding the project?
There's one other reason we did this is the neighbors, there's a safety issue, this hedge here, and so we've trimmed it back, but you can see the existing approach. For whatever reason, it's the only one on San Miguel, I believe, that has asphalt halfway through the sidewalk, and I guess it's because it's steep. So I want to not only put the new one in here. What happens is people park on this side of the street that's allowed, so it's very tight coming out here, and virtually you have to drive over the curb every time you come out. What's unique about here, and one reason Shirley, I think, put the sidewalk, is the neighbors have a double driveway here, so nobody can park in front of it, so access would be easier. My wife's disability. She has a titanium shoulder and broke her back in a car accident. So, I'm trying to make it easy to come in, park, get out, and walk it minimally to put groceries in the kitchen and unload things. I can surely go park the car. It was never really an issue of leaving it there. But I understand we're requesting a variance because the circular driveway could lead to that. So I think this mitigates both the uniqueness that we don't have access to our front door other than parking illegally. Potentially we could look at something here, but it's not really minimizing the steps a lot. And then also mitigates the safety issue with all the new landscaping.
What about widening it and having a pull-out area here where you can get into the front?
All of that's possible. We were trying to make it to where if you widen it, now you'd either have to, this hill's again is very steep and you were there. I don't know how you'd turn around here. So the thought
You
was.
wouldn't. You could come in,
And
unload,
back
and then
out.
go to park.
But I would have to build this, you mean pull in here and walk over to the yard and then park it?
This is it's a 6-foot high drop from here to here.
Okay, all right. Well,
And what, with her condition, it's very hard for her to turn around. So I'm worried that backing out here, which some of the service people and some of the neighbors have too, if it's crowded, I'm trying to make it very simple for her to get in and out here.
okay, I don't understand the backup plate part of it, because if you're telling me you're not going to park here, you're just going to come in, she's going to drop off, going to park the car.
Or parking in the
Well, if
garage.
she's dropping off the groceries, is she driving? And then, yeah, but what would be the difference of coming in here and here doing your groceries and then going this way? I don't understand why you need to back out.
Well,
If you're
here
doing
we
that more.
block the driveway. If we came over and she pulled in, yeah, then again, she would walk over to the front door. Somehow this hill that's very steep, we'd have to beef it up. So it just seemed ideal to drive through and use what and then re-landscape the front to mitigate the safety issue and redo the old apron.
Okay.
See, the intent is that she's not going to park the car away. She's getting out of the car. Mike's going to put the car away. She's up to if she comes home and load her groceries, and if Mike's out, then he can come out later and then put the car away.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I also have another example, just for sake, is that this is I was involved with this house about 10 years ago or so. I guess it's more than 10 now, 15, 16, 17.
From 97.
Cliff Drive, where there was a single-family residence that had an as-built driveway put in, and they wanted to put in a second residential unit. And in the process, we had to provide one extra parking space. And of course, the only space was available was at the front. And even though it's done on brick and with the grass growing through it, it's still a parking space within the front setback. And it was approved in this permit.
Okay.
And there was no mention of a modification for that.
Right, yeah, that was, I don't know why the parking wasn't there. This is all red lined in. I haven't done any research. It's, so I can't answer that. It was back in 87.
97.
Or 97,
But still,
yeah.
you know, when did the ordinance change that parking in the
Okay,
front lane was not
that's-
allowed? See, that's
Well,
something.
no,
that-
parking's always been not allowed within the front setback.
Right,
It's allowed in the
exactly.
remaining front yard. It's screened from the public view.
But that's why when all my projects that show 1800 block of Anacapa Street.
Yeah, this isn't in the neighborhood. That's okay, I've heard enough. I'm closing the comment part of it. I need to open the public comment period to see if anybody's in the audience would like to address this item, okay? So I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to address the staff hearing officer on 1417 San Miguel Avenue? No, seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Like I said, I went to the site and looked at the area, and it is really narrow streets and parking is constrained. And I'm sympathetic to your needs. I have a person with special needs that lives with me, so I know the hardships of it and what kind of improvements you need to make your property accessible. And when looking at properties, that needs to be part of the consideration because to be able to get the person in and out of the house. I'm totally sympathetic to your situation. My job as a staff hearing officer is to look at the community as a whole, and a modification runs with the land. So after you guys have sold the property or moved on, that parking space, that circular driveway remains for the community. So I need to look at it more in the community-wide aspects. And being it's a front setback modification, it's even more important. And given this site, I guess there is a circular driveway down the way, just on the corner, and then over on Santa Cruz. I don't know the legality of them. You showed some building permits, that's fine. But overall, this is not consistent with the development in the neighborhood. And there is excess parking already on the site. And I think there's other options that can be explored. If it's a matter of dropping off or not, there's other areas. I agree with staff's recommendation in terms of the denial that it's not consistent with the development pattern in the neighborhood, and it's not something that's necessary long term. And when we talk about appropriate improvements, it's an appropriate improvement regarding what the request is. So the request is for the circular driveway and parking within the front setback, and I don't believe for this situation that it is appropriate. Therefore, I will make the findings to deny the project and include in the findings that the reason why is that it's not consistent with the pattern development in the neighborhood, and there's other conforming parking spaces that exist on the site. My action is appealable to the Planning Commission. There's 7 people on the Planning Commission. It's within 10 calendar days of today's date, so it would be the following Monday, not this Monday, but the next Monday. They also have oversight authority of all my actions, and if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if it was to be called up, or if a neighbor were to appeal this, Danny would contact you. Okay?
Thank you.
They're in the staff report. I'll give it to you. Yeah, Michael Gott. Yeah, you can keep those. The next item is 508 East Mitchell Trainer Street. The applicant would like to come up. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm not used to being on this side of the table.
Okay.
Oh, sure, sorry.
Whenever you're ready, Joanne. It's fine.
Are we on TV?
Yeah.
Oh boy.
And then this projects up there so the people on the in the audience can see it, and then also on camera. Wait a second. Okay.
Joanne LeConte, Assistant Planner. Good morning. This project is located at 508 East Mitchell Terrain Street. And the requests before you today are for interiors.
Looks like it's on.
I just
Redo it. Oh, you know what? It's towards your shirt.
sweater.
Yeah. Technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Is it on?
Yeah. Oh, no, it's mute. There you go.
Okay, Joanne LeConte, Assistant Planner. This project is located at 508 East Mitchell Terrain Street. The requests before you today are for an interior setback modification to allow an as-built garage and as-built attic space above and the required 3-foot east interior setback for the garage and the required 6-foot east interior setback for the attic space, which includes converting portions of the attic space above to habitable space. Another interior setback mod to allow the as-built garage with as-built storage space above and the required 3-foot south interior setback for the garage and the required 6-foot south interior setback for the attic space. And an open yard modification to reduce the size of the required open yard to allow for a new stairway and landing. So just wanted to provide you a little background before we proceed, and then I'll get into some corrections to the report. But basically what happened is in 2011, this project was heard before the Single Family Design Board, and it was approved. And then it was received a building permit and final approval, and it was constructed, the garage and the attic space above with a window at the rear. And so then in 2015, the applicants were trying to convert the attic space above, which they thought was compliant with the setbacks, to habitable space, and they were just requesting an open yard modification to allow the reduction for the stairway. As a result of that, the project was referred to the HLC in 2015 because it's in the Lower Riviera Special Design District, and it had been now established as a contributing historic resource to the potential Bungalow Haven Historic District. And it's my understanding that sometime during this design review process, it was discovered by a neighbor survey that it was inaccurately represented on the plans, or the property lines weren't shown correctly. And the survey confirmed that the actual project approved in 2011, which was built, was closer to the property lines than they believed originally. So that resulted in the request for additional modifications. So just wanted to let you understand how we got to this point today. Just correction to the staff report, there was a typo. There is an existing 2-story dwelling here, and it's actually 1,521 square feet. The garage is 500 square feet, and there's I'll let the applicant speak to the size of the existing attic space, which is to remain the same size as before, except for the addition of these 2 dormers, and we'll be talking about that square footage in the discussion. But the dormers are located outside of the setbacks. So again, the required setback for the garage in the east interior is 3 feet, and for the attic space is 6 feet. At the rear, this has 1 window, and that's in the setback at the rear of the attic space on the 2nd story. And when we turn to the elevations, you'll be able to see that. It is this right here, and this.
Actually, it's this one.
This is.
The existing is. It looks like this, but.
Yeah. So now we're trying to see how we can best remedy this situation. So the request is to allow the garage to be located 1 foot 10 inches from the east interior property line instead of the 3 feet required, and to allow the proposed habitable floor area above the garage to be 5 feet from the property line instead of the 6 feet required, and to allow the window to be 1 foot 10 inches from the east interior property line. Staff supports the east interior setback modification except for the upper story window, because the as-built and garage and attic space were constructed with the required permits, and it was discovered after the structure was constructed that the property line was shown inaccurately on the plans. However, staff has included a condition that this window shall either be eliminated or redesigned to be a clear story window, and so not to impact the adjacent neighbors. In addition, the building and fire codes have limitations for construction in proximity to neighboring structures. Therefore, staff has also included a condition that the proposal will need to meet the building and fire code requirements. So, and there are different ways to accomplish that, so the applicant is aware of that. As far as the south interior setback goes, which is over here, the garage is proposed to stay at 2.5 feet from the property line, and instead of the 3 feet required. And the habitable portions of the attic will meet the setback requirement, but in this area there's non-habitable attic space, and it's proposed to remain. So staff supports the south interior setback because the as-built garage and attic space were constructed legally with the permits, and it was discovered afterwards that it was incorrect, and no new openings are proposed, and the habitable won't be habitable space, and here it will be outside of the setback. In regards to the open yard mod, this property is zone R2, and it's a small lot for an R2 zone. It's approximately 5,194 square feet, and today it would require 7,000 square feet to construct it for a newly developed R2 lot. So it is significantly smaller than most R2 lots today, and staff supports this open yard mod. It will still allow approximately 1,100 square feet of open yard area that meets the minimum requirements, and it will that does it approximately 11,094, but there's minimum requirements of 20 feet by 20 feet in perpendicular directions. So with that, it will be approximately 1,100 square feet that meets those requirements. Due to the undersized lot and the fact that the open yard will fulfill the intent and purpose of having an open outdoor space, staff supports that request. Also, just wanted to mention from an archaeological standpoint, archaeological letter report was prepared for a prior project, and it said that it's not anticipated that any archaeological resources would be found, but we requested that the standard monitoring clause, standard archaeological resources, unanticipated resources discovery conditions shall be included on the plan. So that pretty much summarized staff's presentation. Also, we did receive 2 letters this morning, and so I have brought the archive plans with the original approval from 2011 in case you need to review that.
Okay, great, thank you. Would you like to state your name for the record and provide additional comments?
Sure, yes. My name is Brian Miller. I'm the designer of the project?
Dan Bocek, homeowner.
Did you want to say your name, or are you just here for support?
Christina Gauthier, homeowner.
Is that with a CH?
CH, yes, thank you.
Yeah, Joanne pretty much covered everything. The only clarification, which is, it's been kind of an interesting development trying to figure out what's accurately drawn and what, accurately get it in record and everything. And I did a lot of my information based on the existing drawings and information, but fortunately the existing garage details are pretty thorough and pretty complete and give a lot of accurate information. I do, however, want to need to alter the square footages of the upper level living area because it's been discovered that it's not accurate, and this is actually the true accurate numbers. I don't know if that makes an impact. However, everything is existing. The only added square footage, if you would call it that, are the dormer windows, because we're converting that small uninhabitable area into habitable, basically for a window here and for access into the attic there. But otherwise, it's all existing.
Okay, so what's the ceiling height in this area here?
The ceiling height here is 8 inches.
So like,
this is the non-habitable, or these little areas in here, and that's what this would be.
okay,
Yeah.
because what I know building code talks about habitable and non-habitable. The zoning ordinance does it. It does say floor area versus, not floor area. So floor area is anything with a ceiling height greater than 5 feet. So that would represent this and not this
Yes.
in
Well,
general.
greater than 5 feet. Yeah, see, this is...
No, that's fine. This is
I still
close
may have to-
enough because
Yeah,
you're doing this area here, right?
Right, so that, yeah. So
Technically, that's not. But so this is the worst case.
exactly, yeah. That would be
Worst
the
case,
maximum, worst
the maximum.
case. Yeah.
Okay,
Because you could see here, obviously,
that's not 5.
right, so...
Okay, and then my other question. Okay, so then the other question is, well, that's not a question. Explain why you're proposing the stairway on the exterior of the building versus inside the garage. If you look just plainly at the plan, the garage is 23 by 22. So, the minimum dimension is 20 by 20. You can
Right.
request a waiver for, I think, then 18 by 18 or something. So why was it proposed for the stairway on the outside of the garage and request the open yard mod versus in the inside?
Well, my understanding was actually that we couldn't apply. You have to have a minimum stairway of 36 inches.
Okay.
And it just seemed like we would have definitely wanted to put a stairway in. But if you look at the current configuration, I don't know how it would have worked.
Well, I was wondering too, in terms of the head clearance once you get to the second floor, because this area, although it's
That's
23,
exactly
it's if you look at the elevation here, you have an elevation. I didn't think it would work anyways,
Yeah.
because here's the back of the garage,
it's-
and this portion right here.
Right.
So, although
Yeah.
it's 23, I just wanted to confirm with you if that
Yeah,
was.
it's you would, if the head clearance wouldn't work, it would be...
You'd have to raise in this area.
Right, and the designs of an interior stairway would actually impact the 20 by 20 foot clear. So I thought
You'd have
the
to get a
best,
waiver.
well, I just felt the best solution to this situation, the easiest, least direction of approach was to have an exterior stairway and not impact the interior of the garage at all, based on all the head clearances and strains.
I was going to say, was there a picture of the floor plan on the garage? So the garage doors 2 feet away from the wall, and the minimum width of the staircase is greater than 2 feet, right? It's 3 feet.
Yeah, so it wouldn't work here. I was just wondering around the back
on the
wall
back.
because the depth's
I see.
23,
So
so
all that way and that, yeah. Then-
somewhere,
then the
yeah,
depth wouldn't
or
work.
you just come up this way to it, but it just, looking
got
at it, my reading of it.
No, believe
it
me,
wouldn't.
we've thought of
See,
it.
this is your stairway option in here.
Yeah, so that would encroach into your
Right.
20-foot, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify with you.
Sure.
Then the other question is, you worked a lot with the building code, and the entrance landing, do you know offhand what the minimum requirement is? Because one of the letters that was concerned was regarding privacy. And I know the building code has minimum requirements for you to be able to stand and open the door in that. And here this is proposed, it looks like a 5-foot flat area. Do you know offhand what the...
I think the minimum is 36 by 36. I think
Okay.
when you have an interior opening stairway, you don't even have to have a landing because they include the area behind the door as landing. So quite literally, you could have the step right in front of the front door if it's an in-swing door. That's kind of an ambiguous provision in the building code because I've run into this quite a bit where we're trying to space a stairway, but if it's an interior swing door, you actually could put the step in the front door. However, in this case,
with elevated, that's what's
Yeah.
the same with the second floor landing?
I put a step here because we wanted to push the stairway back so that we don't go into the setback. That was the
Right.
whole purpose of that. Now, the landing area, I think I did this because of the downstairs doorway that's existing. So I wanted to make sure it was, but,
Just a balanced look, you mean?
yeah, kind of a balanced look. But if you think it could be reduced, see how it kind of frames the dormer? It's more of an aesthetic decision. Reducing it is definitely a possibility. I don't know if we're gaining anything. The other thing is, too, notice that it actually isn't into the open yard, so there is no post coming down. We've designed it so it brackets against the garage, so actually the square footage below is the same as it originally was. So we're actually not encroaching into the open yard there.
Okay.
So I don't know, shrinking it would make any difference.
Well, just in terms of the usability and having someone sitting out there with their, using it more as a deck versus an entrance
Right.
landing, that's the concern. Okay, then the other question, I see you've responded to that, partially to
Right.
staff's recommendation. Can you talk about that, the necessity of it in the setback?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So Terry, who's over there, complained that if we had a habitable space up here, she was worried about being able to see in her backyard, which is true. You can see in your backyard if you go up there. So I actually thought one possible solution to that would be to shorten the window by half. I actually took her up into the loft space of the garage and showed her so this is the window now, and you stand here and look, you can see into your house, into your backyard, obviously. What if we put the garage at the window halfway up, and you do that, and you stand, 2 feet back to about 3 feet back, you can't see into her backyard, so it works out.
And how high is this ledge here from the finished floor? I don't know where the finished floor is in this.
These are 6 feet, pretty close to.
Well, here I have the finished floor.
So this is the finished floor here?
Yeah, well, wait, that's the finished floor. It's about 36 inches, a little over 36 inches. It's about 3 feet from the base of the window.
So that's like the standard height of a room window. So this isn't a clear story window. Those are more up like this.
Yeah, that would be,
Okay.
correct. It is an unusually big window in the first place.
Okay.
It's 4 by 6. Yeah, this drawing isn't accurate, but at least so this window is actually 6 feet, and I propose to bring it up half of this, so 3 feet. So this is more like the area here that we'd be thinking about.
Then the other question I have is regarding drainage. Oh yeah, because I'll walk away with it. I went out to the site. Your dog's hilarious. He was just staring at me through the front window, not barking or anything, just staring. And I'm like,
Until I come home.
yeah.
Wait.
Oh, the poor thing. It was just funny. Not barking, not doing anything, just staring. But then I went in the backyard. I thought, oh, please don't come out. Please don't come out. But anyway, side note. So I did look back here, and I noticed all this. What's going on in this area? When you look at the archive plans, it does show drainage improvements. I know there's some notes, not many notes. I know this is more of a conceptual type thing, that there's more plans coming. And there is showing some kind of drainage here. But can you please talk about
There's a there's a French drain built into this side, so this is gravel, and it connects to a line that goes down into the street, and it drops out all that water down onto the street. That is something that Terry, my neighbor, asked me to do. So when the garage was built, they packed in some fill dirt, and some of it was packed against her garage, and she asked me to remove it. So I did.
But so you have no plans to do?
Well, I'm not really sure. I didn't know what we needed to do with the garage. She asked me to remove it, so I did.
7. This is showing temporary silt catch. 6.
It's actually, this is a better survey, kind of showing what's going on.
But does it?
I don't know if it shows.
It doesn't show drainage.
Drainage,
No,
no.
that's just in this area. So, okay, so you haven't thought that far.
No, we haven't gotten that far.
Okay.
Well, on the original plans, they show rain barrels to catch excess water and rain gutters. I don't have rain gutters on there or the rain barrels right now, and I haven't done it yet because I'm not sure what the fate of the garage is, and so obviously I don't want to do anything until I know what we're going to do with the garage. But as I mentioned to Terry, I'm willing to put all the drainage stuff, the barrels and the rain gutters on, and so this
Catch basin.
yeah, so I think the water flowing off of this way goes into the French drain and gets taken care of by the exit to the street, and then you have the rain barrels on that side to capture. I think they're 50 gallons each.
So Tier 2 compliant, is that what it was?
Okay.
But
All right.
anyway, I don't have any problem putting the gutters out.
Okay, so those are my questions for now. I'd like to open the public hearing. I do have 2 requests to speak. The first one is Joan Marshall. If you wouldn't mind, if she can sit here. And then if you want to come up here, and you have 2 minutes.
Joan Marshall.
Yes.
I've lived at 511 Del Vista since 1957. The neighbor passed away. He's a former owner. And garage that was built in 1925 with a permit. She did not have drainage flooding problems in her garage until after this was built with the fill. It's a very small garage. It has curbing as part of the foundation on 3 sides that kept the garage floor cement garage floor dry.
Can you raise that too up for her?
That kept the garage floor dry. Even though we had dry years after this build, she had flooding on her floor in her garage because of the fill right up against clear up the siding, up to the siding, this concrete down where it was originally built, but then with the fill on top of that, she had flooding. The only thing that's going to hold that flooding back is a retaining wall on his side of the property line. There's nothing else that's going to help. If there were French drains put in at the time this was built, they certainly didn't take care of the problem as far as drainage goes. And as far as the window goes, if the domer, if you do this with the domers, there's 2 domers, there's a skylight, there's this window facing Mitchell Terrena, and there's no need for this window. There's plenty of light. The domers will get a view of the Riviera and possibly a little bit of mountains out towards Salsapuedes, and there's really no need to have that window. Then there would be no privacy problems whatsoever. This is a very minimal substitute for having the window just gone. And since it looms 30 feet and is on about 4 feet of fill, that makes it very, very tall. And looking down into backyards that are small enough that the houses, the bedrooms, the kitchens are all visible from, not all visible, but visible from that window, regardless of how far from the floor the window starts. and backyards. And it actually affects backyard-wise and one-bedroom-wise, I believe, the duplex on the corner, which will at some time in the future be owner-occupied.
Okay, great. Thank you. The next speaker is Terry Lee Minshall. Okay. Hi. Good morning.
Okay, good morning. A couple things. Brian says it has minimal visual impact to the adjoining neighbors. It's totally, sorry about that, totally looming over my property. And even now, and if you put the dormers and the stairs where they're talking about, that's just going to be even harder to, well, that's from my bedroom. So it's just going to, have up there. So every time they come down the stairs, it's just looking right into my backyard, my bedroom. So that is a problem for me. He said that the better solution, there wasn't a problem about having the landing big. It is a problem. The smaller they can make the landing, the better it would be for me than to have that thing so big. So that's a concern. And I know I don't want to beat a dead horse, but there's still fill dirt because this has to go all the way. There's a lot of there's still fill dirt right there, Dan. And I don't know if that's exactly 18 inches either, which is what the survey says it should be back. This was a start.
Yeah, no, I was just digging out so that you could get down to the concrete.
Right.
But basically, I also dug it out.
That.
I dug it out lower than it actually was initially too. So
Well, these aren't roots; these are vines. So that's the vines that were there before the fill
no,
dirt.
those are roots.
Well,
Okay, why don't
They're
you address
absolutely
me?
roots.
It's
That's okay.
wisteria from your old bush.
Yeah, wisteria roots. Believe me.
Okay, well, that's okay.
anyway, because they're starting to sprout now down there.
They
Roots
do.
don't
That's how
sprout.
they sprout.
Please stop.
So I'm still concerned about fill dirt on my property, and just from the rain yesterday, this is starting to erode down. It's starting to break off. So I'm really concerned that and I don't know how far back his footings are, but once that gets straight down, is that going to undermine his footings all along the back of the garage? That's a concern I have too, because it's not retained at all. And then on this, is this, yeah. Okay, here on this print, it has a hedge. It's not really a hedge anymore. It's a big stone wall. So that's wrong. And they now have changed this and widened that, so that's not correct either. So the open space, there's a little more open space that's been covered than what this shows. And then over here, this is just yard right now, but if their landing's going to be here, are they going to be walking through mud in the winter? So are they going to want to put a pavement along there to meet up with that? If that's true, because right now they don't have pavement, so they're going to go from dirt right onto the stairs. So I can see in the future there may be pavement and a walkway there, which would even eat into more of their open space.
Walkways are allowed within the open yard area.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay, it doesn't matter if you have walkways all over your property to cover open space.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And then this looks like it's higher than 36 inches. I'm not sure if you've checked that. It's not 36 inches from here
That's
down
an
to the
existing
ground.
situation. It's on prior plans, so that's not
Okay.
that's something.
So when they consider that as open space, it's okay if it's already built. They can say it's open space if it's a deck that's higher than 36 inches.
Staff's checked that, and staff's verified that it's part of the open yard area, then it's part of the open yard area.
Okay. And then the other thing I wanted to look at was their survey that showed that it's 5 feet because of the couple surveys.
I had of the visual impact of her, based on the photograph she had.
Okay.
So that's kind of the look we were, which I think is
Well,
pretty. Very
but
attractive.
that's from Jones over there, not from my backyard. You don't see the stairs. From my backyard, I mean that's a cool picture, but it's not really what it's going to look like. From my backyard, straight on, there's going to be dormers out here and then stairs down here. So that's great from Jones' angle, but that's not from my angle. And so then the survey, I have a couple discrepancies on that, and he has a 5 feet, and I have
And
4.5
I need you to
feet
wrap it up.
by my survey. It said 4.5 feet, and so they're a little they're closer than what, and so I just wanted to see if I could see their survey to double check those.
Okay, you can meet with them after the hearing and see.
Perfect, okay. Okay.
All right, thank you. Seeing
you.
no one else in the audience, I did receive the 2 letters that you submitted and the photos and reviewed those. So,
Okay, thank you so much.
yeah, I'll close the public hearing, and we have all our photos, so we don't. Like I said, I went out to the site and walked around the neighborhood, and I kind of disagree with staff's interpretation in that the property line was shown wrong. I think the building was constructed in the wrong location, because there's some markers on the site plan talking about a 2-foot retaining wall, and it was 3 feet away, and that could be easily surveyed. So I don't believe it was shown wrong in the plans. It was just constructed wrong. But that's all history. The building's here now. We need to deal with it, which you guys have. You've applied for the modification, which is the proper procedure. So now we're discussing it at this time. So in regards to the location of the garage, I saw on the record, and I think there was noted in here that at one time there was a garage somewhere in this location. I don't know exactly where, but a 1-car garage. But if you look at the aerials, you see that's a common development pattern in this area, as shown on your plans. They're close to the property. They're tucked in the corner. That's just the way it was built in this neighborhood. So in terms of the location of the garage being pushed back in the back corner, that is consistent with the development pattern, and so the modifications requesting the garage to be within the setback, given the existing situation, I feel is appropriate. The concern that is raised is the request for the habitable space, the second floor habitable space within the setback, because that's more of an intense use versus just storage. Storage isn't used that often. You go up there sporadically, whereas if it's a habitable space, you've indicated there's a bedroom, bathroom, that's more intensely used. And so then, you want to look at the impacts, potential impacts to the neighbors, in which they brought out the privacy. They didn't say noise, but a lot of times just the activity level within the setback. So when you start really looking at the plan in regards to where the habitable areas are, and I'm glad Joanne marked this, because on my plans this setback wasn't marked. It was just this setback here, probably because that's where the only area where the habitable space actually encroaches into the setback. This area, although it is internal space, is not considered floor area. If this wasn't at such a high peaked roof and it was lower, this wouldn't be an issue. It would be part of the roof structure, if it was 3 feet away. So we wouldn't even be calling that. So in terms of the area that actually meets the definition of floor area, it is outside of the interior setback to, I don't know the directions on this plan, to the south. Yeah. So then we look, and there's no openings or anything. So then we look to so this one's the east then. We look to the east and we see what kind of uses are in that area. Again, this doesn't meet the definition of floor area because it's lower slope. I don't know. This one I assume too, because on that one elevation that we saw, so this doesn't include either. It's just this portion here. And in terms of second floor windows, those are really hard to support in the interior setback, just because of the whole privacy issue. And so then we look at what's the necessity of it. There are 2 dormers. This adds light, but it goes into the bathroom. There is a skylight, so it seems like there's some kind of window to add more light would be appropriate. However, not as big as what it is. It needs to be clearly a clear story window. It needs to be above the height of the eye. So yes, I understand you stand 3 feet back from the window. You can't see, but that's over here. So I would be supportive of staff's condition that's in here regarding it's either removed altogether or be a clear story window. That what's proposed here is not appropriate for within the interior setback. In regards to the stairway within the open yard, it is a minor encroachment. It's dimmed again. When I went out there, it feels kind of cramped back there, but I think there's a couple issues. One, this patio area, which is meant to enjoy, your outdoor area. And then there was dirt and stuff, which probably was because of digging out here. So there's, obvious stuff going on. And when you look at it, it's 70 feet, was it? The amount of encroachment's very small. But I would, if I was inclined to support the modification, put a condition on that this be the minimum code required.
Okay.
However, I don't want it to be then interpreted that it's only a stairway, so maybe 36 by 36 minimum building code requirement.
I understand
So it's the minimum.
minimal acceptable.
Yeah, it's 36 by 36 unless the building code requires more.
Got it.
So it's just the minimum. The idea is so it's not a place that's going to be used for
Purely for functioning as a stairway access.
to get you inside the door and provide adequate area if you to unlock the door and go in. And then in regards to drainage, that needs to be dealt with. And I will put a condition on the project that a drainage plan, and it can either be on the site plan or a separate plan, a drainage plan be provided, and that, and specifically in the area between these two neighbors, that this needs to be dealt with somehow. And that was as a result of the construction of the garage closer to the property line than what was shown on the plan. So this does need to be dealt with, whether it's a retaining wall or what. I'm going to leave that up to later.
We can get an engineer to come out there and verify and get that all designed.
So that doesn't need to be now, just part of your final drawings.
Okay.
So I think I got all the issues, because I talked about the stairway. You clarified that I have this. So then the resolution will have the correct numbers on it. Clarified the numbers. We talked about drainage. We talked about the entrance landing. So with those conditions, and you read the other conditions, right, regarding that were proposed in the staff report regarding the roof overhangs, the upper the window, and then the cultural resources. So I can make the findings, but I do want to change them. Both of the findings for the east interior setback modification and the south interior setback modification refer to the reason why it's appropriate, because it was constructed with required building permits. Well, it was, but not in the right location. So I want to cut that out and just identify the fact that it's consistent with the development pattern of the neighborhood with the garages in the rear. That's why it is appropriate. And with the move, I was thinking if I should say the something about the habitable space is minimal.
Something about the head clearance, or
it
gets very confusing.
I think if we specify better the square footages, that'll probably be okay. But I might add wording in regards to the area.
The habitable based on head height.
Yeah, well, that the habitable space, there is no habitable space in the south interior setback, and that the area within the east interior is minimal.
Right.
And then the open yard modification could remain as is. So with those changes to the findings, and then the additional conditions regarding the landing size, and the drainage and the property there, I could approve your project. And my action is appealable to the Planning Commission within 10 calendar days. And they also have oversight authority of all my actions. And if they felt this warranted additional discussion before them, they could call it up during that same 10-day review period. And if either of those would occur, Joanne would contact you. Okay? So I adjourn the meeting.